Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Would you consider yourself a trash talker?
Not really. I mean,
Come on, Coach.
a lot of people do it to demean people. I did it for fun most of the time.
Bird didn't talk trash to you.
Oh, my God. Bird talk trash to everybody. I always tell the story about Larry Bird. I remember him, he was cursing under his breath. And I asked him, I said, Larry, what's going on with you? He says, you guys are being disrespectful to me. And I says, what are you talking about? He says, you guys are putting a white guy on me. That's disrespectful.
The story goes that when he played against Denver, they had a guy named John Hansley, a white guy, really good defender, right?
Okay.
They put him on Larry, and Larry was weighing his ass out. And Larry would run by the bench and tell Doug Moe, who was the coach, get him off me. That's disrespectful. Put a black guy on me. Because when he played back in the day, that's all he played against was brothers.
I'm ride for my motherfucking new.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. All right, mix it up a little bit. I told you guys I'm mixing it up. I love that story. They're talking about Larry Bird. So that was Charles Barkley and then Byron Scott, if anyone is a NBA fan, an old school NBA fan like I am. And they were talking about how in that story, obviously, Larry Bird was feeling disrespected because they put a white guy on him to guard him. That is hilarious. That is seriously hilarious. The reason I played that is because, man, lately I've been like going back and obviously the interviews that I've played with the Shah of Iran and Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes. And then, just like these older guys reminiscing about the NBA and, you've got these guys that obviously give Larry Bird his due. He's a white basketball player in an era where it was dominated by black basketball players. I mean, obviously it still is, but I just love that those guys don't see color and they don't see racism or anything. And all they saw was talent on the basketball court. And, I love listening to these stories from these guys talking about that era. And then more importantly, I just really do. I look back and it was a much simpler world we lived in and a much simpler America. And in so many ways, a much better America and a much better world. So anyway, kind of started that for those multiple reasons, or I wanted to start with that for those multiple reasons. I've got another hilarious clip from Nolan Richardson, who was giving a speech about Larry Bird. I'll play that at the end. But anyway, all right, listen, let's see. What should we talk about? Oh, I've got another good clip for you guys. Here's another former CIA guy, and he is on the Sean Ryan show. Remember that guy? Talked about him back in the day, the Sean Ryan. He is former Navy SEAL Sean Ryan. And so here is another CIA guy talking on the Sean Ryan show, and this is interesting. If you listen to the past couple episodes, you'll know what he's getting at.
Here we go. Ready? I think our country is occupied.
Who do you think we're occupied by?
AIPAC.
A lot of people think that.
The evidence is all there. It's come on. We send $18 billion a year to Israel. Why? Just ask the question, what do we get out of it?
Nothing.
We get nothing. Are we doing humanitarian work? No, they're charged with genocide. They're killing off Palestinians. Are we helping them survive? Well, they've got a higher standard of living than we do, a longer lifespan than we do, free education, free housing, free health care. Well, we're sending them money. Why? Ask yourself why a U.S. congressman can wear an Israeli military uniform in congressional chambers. I would think that would be an act of treason.
Let me jump in real quick. He's talking about Florida Congressman Brian Mast, who's a guy that, I mean, this is insane. He wears his Israeli IDF uniform in Congress. This dude's had his legs blown off. I forget what it was, what war it was, but oh my God, if there's ever someone that deserves it. Nah, I shouldn't say that. That's not nice. Although karma does come at you. Anyway, that guy's terrible.
But they did. Nobody said anything. Ask why the Israeli prime minister can bypass the president, fly directly in and speak to our Congress without any other government interaction.
I didn't know that could happen.
Oh yeah, Netanyahu did. Flew straight in, bypassed the president, talked to the Congress. Congress gave him 26 standing ovations. Our Congress gave Netanyahu, a foreign prime minister, 26 standing ovations.
Man, I'll tell you what, man, there's a lot of people talking about this now. It is definitely not, it's not going anywhere. And what I think is, honestly, what I think is a little bit scary is I don't think Trump cares, or the entire Republican Party and the administration. Again, I mean, I don't know. I guess you could say they don't care, or maybe they can't do anything about it. But the bottom line is they're not adjusting course at all. Okay. And I literally think Trump has lost. I mean, before I said it was 50-50, I think he's lost 75% of his base. I'm not even kidding. I think he has lost a ridiculous amount of his supporters. You know, his approval ratings are at an all-time low. You know, nobody really takes him seriously, although there is still a little group of the magtards, as my buddy calls them, and a lot of those are Gen X and maybe baby boomers that are still, you know, diehard Trump guys. But the rest, man, they are out. People are out on him. And again, whether he just cannot, I guess, change course. I mean, again, there's two schools of thought here. One is he just doesn't care. And this has been who he is the entire time, and he fooled everybody. Okay, plausible. The second course is he is under duress, and he can't do anything about it. Even if he wanted to, he can't. Again, plausible. So, all right, we'll see what happens. Let me play this clip, and ironically, it's going to tie again some talk from a previous episode in regards to Jared Kushner. So this guy, this is an Asian professor. His name is Jing Jiang. And man, he's gotten really big on social media. And so you might recognize his voice, or if you saw him, you might recognize him. But give this a listen. He's talking about Jared Kushner.
When Jeffrey Epstein died, who replaced him? And then you ask yourself, okay, who is Jared Kushner? And why is he involved in Ukrainian peace negotiations? Why is he an envoy to Israel on behalf of Trump? And why is he participating in the Iranian peace negotiations? Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are envoys who went to Ukraine to negotiate with Putin to end the war. They met with Zelensky to end the war. They are very close with Netanyahu. And then they represented Trump in peace negotiations with the Iranians. Who are these people, right? Jared Kushner is a replacement for Jeffrey Epstein. And that all makes sense if you think about it that way.
That's a pretty wild statement. Jared Kushner is a replacement for Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think that. I don't agree with that, mainly because I don't think Jared Kushner is trying to get blackmail dirt on people the way Jeffrey Epstein did. I just think Jared Kushner is a super smart guy, and he's basically at the head of grift, the grift coalition, which is the entire Trump family and his entire network. And he's the one in charge of basically taking advantage of the opportunities that are afforded to them with all these Saudis and global leaders and, quite frankly, everybody, in order to make as much money and, hoard as much power and wealth as they can over the rest of this term. So that's what I think Jared Kushner's role is. I don't really think it's the blackmailing of people the way Epstein did. But anyway, let's listen to the rest of this.
And so what are these guys trying to do? They're trying to fulfill eschatology. Mm-hmm. They're trying to position world events in a certain way that would accelerate the collapse of the world, which is what Jeffrey Epstein did. Remember, we only have at most 50% of his emails. It's possibly, it could be 2% of his email.
All right, man, there's a lot of talk about like the collapse of the world and all this stuff. I mean, again, just crazy talk, what seems to be crazy talk, but man, a lot of people are doing it. There's a Candace Owens episode from last week that I listened to. I'm going to listen to that again because she went incredibly deep on some incredibly deep topics, and I need to digest it again, but I will most likely do an episode on her episode next week because I think it's worth listening to. And man, I genuinely, I think something's coming. I really do. And I think it's something COVID-like that's going to cause people to, again, I guess the best way to kind of think of COVID, or the way I think about it now, is it was something that caused a dramatic change in everybody's life and lifestyle. And it caused people to really stay home a lot more. Now, one theory could be this ongoing war with Iran and, driving up gas prices and all of that. I mean, if this thing goes to another level, and now all of a sudden gas goes from, I mean, gosh, I think I pumped the other day in California at like $5.19. That's crazy. Now, all of a sudden, imagine if gas goes to $10.19, or wherever you live. If you're in the Midwest and you're paying $2.59 right now, $2.69, imagine if you were paying $5.69, $6.69, $7.69. That is going to dramatically affect how much you go out. It absolutely is. And that's going to trickle down or trickle up to everything, a meal at a restaurant for a family of four right now. Again, I'm making this up. Let's say somewhere in the Midwest, forget California, because it's just insane out here with the prices. But somewhere in the Midwest, you can go out to eat for your family for, let's say, $120. I don't even know if that's feasible these days. But let's say $120. Now all of a sudden, what if that's $320? What if that's even $220? I think it's going to that would dramatically affect people going out. The price of gas dramatically affect people driving and doing that stuff. The airline tickets, those would go up like crazy. Now all of a sudden, everybody's not traveling. So to me, when I look back on COVID, it was something that caused a ridiculous change in everybody's day-to-day life. And so, again, whether it's this war and the war going to another crazy level, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like something is coming that's going to cause that type of change, like another major change in people's everyday, day-to-day life. I hope I'm totally wrong about this one, but I partly say that because you would think that Trump and the administration, as they're seeing their polling numbers, as they're just, reading the room, it's like, bro, read the room, man. Nobody is happy with what you're doing, and he just keeps on doing it. Another reason I think that is, man, I've just noticed some weird interviews lately from these guys. I mean, forget Trump for a second, but JD Vance. I mean, some just strange choice of words that JD Vance uses in interviews. And by the way, I do find JD Vance highly intelligent. Therefore, I think whatever word choice he uses is by design. And it is on purpose. So give a listen to this interview he did with Megyn Kelly and pay particular attention to his word choice that he uses multiple times.
And there's a real question about whether there's a massive shift happening now in terms of world alliances long term.
Well, it's definitely, I think, a new world order. I think the president has sought to it. There's a new world order in trade. There's a new world order in globalization and the way that we invest in our economy versus, foreign supply chains. There's a new world order, and the president is willing to shake up some old alliance structures. I mean, NATO, I think, is much different because of the president's leadership than it was 10 years ago. It was sort of coasting. It was effectively a protectorate of the United States of America. Obviously, you saw what happened in Venezuela. So, yeah, the president is putting a stamp on world history. but fundamentally in an America First way. Like
all right, not the America First, but like the 4 times he said New World Order at the beginning of that was just odd to me. You know, that was odd. And I noticed things like that. And I'll tell you why in particular I notice New World Order, because obviously that gets talked about a lot. But I think these guys are picking up on a playbook, again, an old playbook that was started, and a lot of it goes back to Papa Bush, George H.W. Bush. So give a listen to this from 1988.
In ending the long era of conflict and Cold War, we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
All right, again, think about that. That goes all the way back to 1988 with H.W. Bush talking about New World Order. And then all of a sudden, here you've got J.D. Vance 3 weeks ago on Megyn Kelly, like saying New World Order every other day. And then there's other guys, you know, like over the years, you've really heard this concept of New World Order being spouted out by the uniparty class, people from John Kerry to Nancy Pelosi to, actually, let's listen.
New World Order.
A new order for the centuries, for the ages, forever.
And the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
A new world order.
Of a new world order.
A new world order.
New world order.
A new world order.
The new world order.
New world order.
For a new world order.
A new world order. The new world order.
A new world order.
A new world order.
Of a new world order. A new world order.
A new world order.
Since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it.
And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the new world order.
Are you on the US or the Chinese side?
Man, there were a lot of people in that. I wish you could see the video. Obviously, you probably recognize Biden's voice, but Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry. Man, there were a cast of characters in that thing. You had, obviously, George H. Bush, George W. Bush was in there. Henry Kissinger was in there. I just realized I never did my episode on Henry Kissinger. What's-his-face was in there. Oh, my God. What is that Hungarian guy that gets everything blamed as being the billionaire leftist? Oh, my God. What is his name? Oh my God, George Soros. God, sometimes I blank on the weirdest things. But George Soros was in there. Henry Kissinger was in there. Tony Blair, the knucklehead former prime minister of England, was in there. Just a lot of the Klaus Schwab, the guy from the former bald, big, goofy dude from the World Economic Forum. I mean, just a lot of people that have been tied to this. And this being, you know, this ruling party, this uniparty, this globalist elitist, and then Biden, obviously. And I'm telling you, man, I finally am at a point where I don't think there's a difference between Biden and Trump. And whether that was always the case or whether that is now the case, it kind of doesn't matter because it is the case. I think it's now the case. I don't think it was always the case. I'm still not in the camp of, you know, Trump having pulled the psyop on us since 2016. I, again, think everything changed 2024. So, okay, there's a little bit more of this. Let's hear the rest of it because, again, Man, I think something's coming. I really do. I hate to say that, and I don't want to be like a negative person, especially going into the weekend. But I guess I am. But anyway, this is just things that should get on your radar.
Because now, progressively, a lot of people would like to see there are two orders in this world. This is a huge mistake, even for both the US and China.
Okay, that was interesting, and I did play ahead because I was very surprised that was Emmanuel Macron, and he's talking about how people think there's going to be two orders. There's going to be the U.S. side and the China side, obviously probably the two big superpowers. So I was kind of surprised because in my opinion, honestly, I think it's all the same. I mean, I'm at a point where part of me thinks that what has taken place with the surveillance in China since 2012, actually, or maybe even 2008, since Obama came into power, and this is pretty wild because you'll see why in a second, and it really was 2008 when Obama came into power that manufacturing started going over to China, and China basically has become the superpower since 2008. So I was very surprised at Emmanuel Macron for saying that in that speech, but I did listen ahead. And so now let me play you the rest of Emmanuel Macron, and then I'm going to play you somebody that came onto the scene in 2008.
We need a single global order.
Time has come for the world to move in a new direction. We must embrace a new era of engagement based on mutual interest and mutual respect, and our work must begin now.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the US would participate fully. One rooted on four basic principles:
non-proliferation and disarmament, the promotion of peace and security, the preservation of our planet, and a global economy that advances opportunity for all people.
All right, that was wild. That was seriously wild. Obviously, that was Obama. Anyway, all right, listen. I don't know, guys. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But what I do think is that the more we talk about things, I think the more people start to get an understanding and really try to flesh out what potentially a nefarious group of, megalomaniac billionaires are trying to do. That's like the only opportunity to kind of foil those plans. And then the question becomes, Can it even be possible to stop anything? I don't know, man. I don't know. But obviously, I think understanding and trying to figure out kind of what is taking place and what is happening is a good decision. Okay, last thing. Pay attention to what's going on in terms of the stuff with this war, and especially I'm talking about false flags. I have a feeling we're going to start to see crazy things happen, suicide bombings, this, that. They're going to try to blame this, blame that, blame this, blame that. And really, God forbid, I hope not, but in my mind, a 9/11 type, major event to drum up public support for something, again, major that could lead to everything we've talked about this episode. I hope that's not the case, but I could definitely see that being plausible. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and I'll be back next week. Next week, I'm going to try and get some of the interviews that I've got going, and I need to start recording interviews again, and that's about it. All right, have a great weekend. Get out there. Get some steps in, do some hills, man. These hills are kicking my butt, but I love it. I love it. So get steps in, do hills, do step. Well, I just said that. Do steps, call your parents, enjoy your families, enjoy your friends, enjoy your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You. Available now on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, as well as via Kindle. Pick up your copy today of Deep Shallow Dive Into You, a guide to having a more authentic relationship with yourself. Turns out it is indeed true. Bro wrote a book.